Joining us right now on the Daily Dose, we are bringing back some friends of the Dose to take a look at this NFL season at the halfway point. We're right around there. First up, we have Big Rob making back-to-back appearances on the Dose. He was here last week for the college football midseason report. Rob is our resident Philadelphia Eagle fan. Rob, welcome back to the Dose.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Can't wait.
Next up, we have Mike from Castle Rock. Mike's got his Denver Bronco background going, but I kind of like that. That looks good. Rob or Mike, you got to be feeling good about the Denver Broncos right now. I know we're coming off of a rough loss this week, and yet they might still be in the hunt for a playoff spot. Got to feel good about that, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, you had to go into the season thinking it was all about, the development of Nix, and he definitely has progressed. He's still making rookie mistakes. I think I stopped dry heaving after that blocked field goal about 2 hours after game time, but yeah, things are looking up.
Yeah, they're getting better. Finally, we have our savvy veteran, Utah Ute and Denver Bronco fan, Larry, joining us. Larry from Centennial. Larry, how are things going in your world, and how did you deal with that horrible loss on Sunday with the Denver Broncos?
The loss was tough, right?
Yes, it was.
But if you counter it with the expectations of going into KC, that they showed well,
Yeah,
but couldn't get it done. Question for you though,
I'm ready.
if is this a paying gig? Is Rob getting a check for each appearance? Because I'm not getting
The,
that.
the
And
check is in the mail. He's got to look for it. Now,
okay,
I I got to verify his address. I'm not sure we have all but that I'll have my people contact your people. We'll get
it
this
feels
all
like
straightened out.
Rob
Yep.
might be a part-time employee of the Daily Dose.
Rob is a
So.
part-time employee of the Daily Dose, and by part-time I mean not getting paid. Gentlemen, the 2024 NFL season is rolling along. We are just kind of around that midway point of the season. And we know that every year we try to solve the mystery of who is actually good, who is not good at all. And I feel like there are teams that I have a reasonably accurate gauge of right now. And there are teams that are kind of schizophrenic, and I have no idea what to expect from one play to the next, let alone from one game to the next. I want to jump into each division and see which teams have been a pleasant surprise, which teams have maybe been a massive disappointment, and who is actually going to be making it to the postseason with a shot to go to Super Bowl 59. Let's go ahead and jump in. Let's start off in the AFC East, where the Buffalo Bills sit on top of the division by about 500 miles. The Bills are 7-2, and then we have the New York Jets and New England Patriots at 3-7, and the Miami Dolphins at 3-6. They are way behind. Mike, let's start with you. If you had to go in the AFC East, who would be your disappointment from the AFC East? And remember, we only have an hour or so.
Yeah. God. I mean, the Dolphins obviously are underperforming, but losing your quarterback to concussion number 32, I think,
Ah,
has a lot to do with it. They've definitely underperformed, but uh, probably one of the biggest disappointments in the NFL, as far as I'm concerned, is the Jets. I mean, Rodgers he's either too old or hasn't recovered from the Achilles, is not clicking. They're getting got him his his wide receiver. The defense isn't even as stellar as it has been. They're showing. I think they're just tired of carrying the team. They're worse off record wise than they were the last 2 years without Rodgers. So that's an easy one. That's low hanging fruit right there.
yeah, it's got to be the Jets. The Jets have been absolutely terrible. Rob, you got anybody different for the AFC East, or would you go with the Jets as well?
No, yeah, it's the Jets by far. And I think Mike touched on it. The defense for me is the biggest point of
Yeah.
drilling down, like the step back that they've taken. It's really surprising. But yeah, that's my biggest disappointment in the East.
Well, and Aaron Rodgers looks old. He looks like he can't move. He doesn't want to throw the ball down the field. He wants to take the safe, dump off pass, but that's not what made Aaron Rodgers so special. And that has been a massive, change from I think what Jets fans were hoping for. Larry, do you have anybody else in the AFC East that you look at as your big disappointment?
No, it's Miami, I think, by far.
Okay.
Look, the Jets are only a disappointment if you thought they were going to do anything.
Yeah.
And I didn't, right? So I get the defense was supposed to be good, but Rodgers isn't any good anymore.
No.
It's Miami is the disappointment in that division.
All right. I think we are in agreement. It is the Jets and it is Miami. Let's move over to the happier side. Rob, staying in this AFC East, who would be your pleasant surprise so far?
It's got to be the Bills.
Yeah.
We're a little bit worried about losing Diggs and who was Allen going to throw to. But you know, they've still kept on rolling. I know we'll get into this later. A little bit worried when we get into the playoffs, but yeah, for them to not you know, have that big of a drop off without a true number one receiver is a big surprise for me.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised by that too. And then they go out before the trade deadline. They get, wide receiver Amari Cooper who can step in. I don't know that he's a one, but he's a good two. The Bills are, yeah, they're a little bit better. If James Cook can stay healthy, Bills could be a problem. Larry, do you have a pleasant surprise in the AFC East?
Emphasis on pleasant surprise. The Jets again. The longer this disaster keeps going, it's more fun for everyone. So that's what I'm keeping my eye on. Yeah.
That's
No,
fair.
I mean the Bills, right? Nobody thought they were going to have anybody to throw to, and it's turning out that they're still competitive, winning. So not necessarily a surprise because they're good, but because they're overachieving. Well, maybe not even overachieving, right? They're achieving, and a lot of people didn't expect them to, I think. But yeah.
Mike, you got anybody else for us? A pleasant surprise in the AFC East?
Well, I think based on the Tom Brady, Bill Belichick era, everybody's going to giggle as long as the Patriots are horrible, and they are
Sure they are.
horrible.
Yeah.
They do look like May might turn out to be a decent quarterback. He's shown
He
some
might.
flash, but I think I don't think it's a pleasant surprise, but it might be a little surprise at just how good the Bills are at this point. They lead the conference in point differential. They don't miss Diggs at all. Allen is playing as he's not turning the ball over. That's the key this
Right.
year. Right? He's not turning the ball over. So they're running. I think they might actually lap the division by the time the playoffs come along. But not that it's a surprise that they're doing well. I just think how well they're doing is a surprise for me.
I would agree. Does anyone have anyone other than the Bills getting in the playoffs out of the AFC East? Okay. We just have the Bills. All four of us are in agreement. I am going to say this. I think the Miami Dolphins could be a very dangerous team down the stretch as Tua, if he's healthy, as he gets kind of his legs back under him and gets some continuity. Not that they're going to be a playoff team, just that there could be a spoiler kind of team because they have a lot of talent. But when you take him out, it really decimated their whole season. And I could see them tripping some people up down the stretch. When you come up to them on your schedule, you better be careful. We move next to the NFC East, where the Philadelphia Eagles are in the driver's seat. They've got a 7-2 record, but the Washington Commanders sit just behind them at 7-3. Then we have the Dallas Cowboys at 3-6. The New York Giants are bringing up the rear at 2-8. Rob, who is your disappointment of the NFC East, and why do they have a big hole in their roof?
I'm actually going to go a different way on this because I didn't have the Cowboys in
That's nice
first
of
go
you.
round. So give me the Giants.
Yeah.
I thought they would be better. I wasn't expecting a lot of them, but the turn that they've taken, just I didn't see that coming. I thought they would be more competitive, more into it, and I think they might have, checked out already. So the Giants that's my biggest disappointment in the NFC East.
The Giants have been horrible. And, that game on Sunday in Germany or wherever that was, when they played the Panthers, for one, I heard some people asking, what did Germany do to deserve that horrible game between the Panthers and the Giants? I think we all know what they did. Larry, who is your disappointment in the NFC East?
Yeah, it's Dallas. I mean, it's such a dumpster fire, right?
So fun.
And again, much like the Jets, it's fun for everybody unless you're, it's fantastic, right? But I am with Rob a little bit. Like, I think people thought the Giants might be a little bit better, but I think Dallas, just the full picture of Dallas is the disappointment. Yeah.
Yeah. Mike, got anyone else in the NFC East for us as a disappointment?
Yeah, I don't really want to pile on, but yes, I do. It's the Cowboys. None of us thought they were going to do great, go for and probably one and done in the playoffs or just outside
Right.
of the playoffs. But their record at home, giving up what 40 points a game their last 5, 6 games at home. I mean, it is atrocious. That
Getting
defense
beat
was
by
supposed to be
20.
really
Yeah.
good. You're paying Dak Prescott all the money in the world. You're paying CeeDee Lamb all the money in the world. You got Micah Parsons, who's going to break the bank next year. What are they going to do? This might just be the beginning of the end for them. So,
No, you're right, because the coach is on that final year. I mean, you've got a few guys on their final year. The coaching staff, the entire staff is on their final. And maybe the most concerning, I don't know if Jerry even knows where he's at. Like, he doesn't seem like he's even grasping what's going on. He might forget to fire everyone. I don't know. It is a bizarre situation in Dallas.
well, he forgot to add blinds to his order for the
It's
stadium.
so
I mean,
weird. It's so weird. And then he got mad at the reporter who asked about it. Dallas's point differential right now is a negative 82. That is unbelievable. We expected him, like you said, to slide a little bit. Man, it's just bad. Okay, Larry, let's go to a pleasant surprise. Who is the pleasant surprise of the NFC East? And no, you can't make it be the Cowboys just because they make us all happy.
Easy, Washington, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
how great has this been for them? And maybe we should have seen it coming, right? They cleaned house. They drafted the best rookie quarterback in the draft, according to a lot of people. And but the way they've been able to put it together really fast, the season's not over yet, but you gotta we used to count on Washington being what Dallas is going to be.
yeah.
But they've turned it around. It's awesome. Yeah.
Is it weird that we keep seeing the number two quarterback get selected being better than the number one quarterback being selected? Because we're seeing it. We've seen it a few times now, and I don't know why that is. I don't know if that's expectations. I don't know. I don't know what that is, but we've now seen it a few times. We've got Jaden Daniels in Washington playing really, really well. We've got Caleb Williams in Chicago looking like he could be busty. Rob, who's your pleasant surprise in the NFC East?
It's the same for me. Commanders. I know we'll get to them. This is what I thought the Bears were going to be.
The
Yeah, but yeah, Commanders for me by far.
Mike, got anything different, or is this just a layup here?
no, it's not that just that they're 7-3. It's they're efficient,
Yeah.
they're smart, they're well coached. Some of their efficiency numbers are ridiculous, and being with a rookie quarterback at the helm, they're forget division. That's a surprise in the NFL to me.
Now, I will say this slight word of caution. They're not beating any good teams. So we'll see what they do when they in the latter half of the schedule. The good news for them is in that division, there's only one good team. So they're going to have that benefit. But I do want to see when they have to play some of the big dogs because even, we saw Pittsburgh on Sunday. Pittsburgh found a way to get a win and Washington couldn't. I want to see when they start, facing the tougher teams. Who has I've only got Philly getting to the playoffs. I'm sorry. I've only got one team coming out of the NFC East. Does anyone have anyone other than Philly going to the NFL playoffs so far out of the NFC East? Rob, you got Washington too?
Yeah, I've got Philly winning the division, and then I got Washington getting in as a wild card.
Larry, how about you?
I did the same. Yeah.
Okay,
In
Mike.
my revised playoff
Yeah, we're
projections.
gonna revise these suckers. We did them in the heat of the summer. Mike, what about
Yeah.
you? You got Washington getting in?
I do. I actually
Okay.
do. Yeah. So
All right. We've got 3 votes for and 1 vote against. Let's switch over to the AFC North, which last year was one of the most competitive divisions in the entire league. Right now, the Pittsburgh Steelers sit on top of the division. They have a 7-2 record, followed by the Baltimore Ravens at 7-3. The Cincinnati Bengals are 4-6, and the Cleveland Browns are just 2-7. Larry, who is your disappointment from the AFC North?
Oh, for sure, Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. I don't know, what's going on. But I think they were, they were expected to do better than they've shown this year. So Cincinnati, big disappointment there.
Mike, got a disappointment in the NFC North?
No, I mean, and nothing different, right? I mean, I think we all kind of agreed that the Browns were extremely talented, but until Deshaun finally broke himself, they were being led by an idiot. So them being 2-7 isn't a surprise, but I'm convinced that Joe Burrow could throw 10 touchdowns and they'd lose 72-70 somehow. So I just it's frustrating. They have a history. I don't know if it's Joe Burrow, the coaching, or what it is, but they've always stumbled out of the gates, but
Yeah, they
it's
have.
not picking up yet. So that does worry me.
Yeah, it does me too. I think they're still going to have a chance to be a playoff team, but what a horrible start. And that defense has not been good. So Burrow has to be perfect. A lot of times he gets grief. Oh, he didn't do this late in the game. Well, yeah, because they gave up 28. He's got to score 30 every dang game. Rob, who's your disappointment of the NFC North?
I'll agree with everyone. Bengals. But I'll also mention the Browns too.
Yeah.
I thought you would get like maybe a mediocre Deshaun. Maybe he didn't go back to Houston level. But I mean, just he was so bad, the whole year. He's not, finally out of there now. But yeah, for me, Bengals for sure, but also a slight nod to the Browns. Like I said, I didn't think they would be that bad.
I didn't either. And we talked about the defense with the Bengals, but what about that defense with the Browns? That's a talented defense. They're not doing anything. And here's the worst news. The Browns are still on the hook for $92 million to Deshaun. You're not getting out from under that anytime soon. Honestly, I just cut him. I mean, just eat it. You saw here in Denver. Eat it and go get a young guy that you're paying basically nothing to, because he's not helping you at all. They're better with Jameis in the lineup, and Jameis isn't that great. All right, let's go right back to Rob. Rob, who is your pleasant surprise from the AFC North?
For me, it's going to be the Steelers. I'm still not convinced. I wasn't convinced going into it that Russ was the guy. And I'm still not convinced, but yeah, I didn't see him, staying ahead of it this far. Back half of the schedule is a lot tougher, so we'll see. But so far, I'm surprised with the Steelers.
I am too. Mike, you got a pleasant surprise in the AFC North?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's the Steelers as well, right? So, I mean, the old adage is if you can play defense and run the ball, you can win a lot of games. And they do both of those very well. Defense is great. Russ doesn't have to do a lot. He's doing just enough. Yeah, I think in our preseason, I said that Tomlin's winning record streak was going to snap, and that does not look like it's going to happen. So the Steelers are my surprise.
Yeah. Larry, you got anything different coming out of the NFC North?
No. And as a matter of fact, I don't have a surprise, a pleasant surprise. Like I don't see anything not predicted in this division.
Well, and the Steelers are on top of the division. The Steelers have looked very, very good. Here is my caveat with Steelers. They haven't played anybody. They've beaten bad teams, and the back half of that schedule gets really tough. They're going to start playing divisional teams. I could see the Steelers slip a bit. I'm not going to say that they won't get into the playoffs, because I think that the record is so good now. But we have seen Pittsburgh get off to some strong starts and then stumble down the stretch, and I think they might actually do that again. All right, fellas. I am going in the NFC North. Ravens, champion. Steelers, wild card. Bengals, wild card. I think they're going to sneak in. I think they're going to warm up and get things going. I think they're going to sneak in. I hate to say that. Who's got Mike? What teams do you have getting into the playoffs here?
I'm actually carbon copy what you said. I think the Bengals get on a roll. I think the Ravens overtake the Steelers. So,
okay, Larry, what about you?
I've
Playoffs?
got Baltimore, and
Yeah.
I do have the Steelers sneaking in. Yep.
Okay, Rob, playoffs?
Yeah, same as you. Ravens division, Steelers wild card, and Cincy sneaks in as the last wild card.
Yeah, they just might warm up and make a comeback. Yeah, and if they do, I mean, Burrow, he gets rolling. Look out. We will go next to maybe the toughest division in the league and that is the NFC North, where the Detroit Lions are proving they are for real. Despite losing their top pass rusher in Aiden Hutchinson, the Lions are still winning, and they're doing it even when they don't play well. They're doing it against good teams. The Lions are now 8-1, followed by the Minnesota Vikings at 7-2, the Green Bay Packers at 6-3, and then the Chicago Bears are slipping. They are down to 4-5 and bringing up the rear. Mike, who is your disappointment for the NFC North? And is it the end of game defense for the Chicago Bears? Because we saw that little fiasco a few weeks ago.
Right. Well, I mean, I didn't expect much from the Bears. I mean, 3 weeks ago, this whole division was all above 500, right? The only division in football like that. So that at that time, that was a pleasant surprise. I got to say, this is kind of how I figured it was going to be. So I really don't have a disappointment in this division.
No, that's fair. Rob, do you have a disappointment in the NFC North?
Yeah, it's the Bears for me. I mentioned them earlier. I thought the defense would be good. And I thought Caleb would do enough to have them just sneaking into the playoffs. Yeah, I don't have them making it now. They've fallen off like a little bit more than I expected. So for me, it's the Bears. I thought they would be just a little bit better than they are.
Should we be concerned about Caleb?
Yeah. Yes.
It's starting to get concerning. I know he told his punter, "You're not going to have to do much." That kid's going to have his leg fall off at the rate they're going. Larry, do you have a disappointment in the NFC North?
Same as Rob. No disappointment. Pretty predictable, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move over to the other side. Well, I will say this. I'm not going to say the Bears because they do look like a mess, but I wasn't expecting that much. I've got a little bit of a disappointment in Packers quarterback Jordan Love. He's turning the ball over way too much, and I know the Packers are still in the thick, of the playoffs and the whole thing, but he's missing throws. He hasn't looked right this year. Jordan Love is just a little bit off, and if I'm a Packers fan, I would be getting a little bit concerned about that because he hasn't had a great game, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's his receivers. I don't know if it's his line. I don't know what it is, but Jordan Love doesn't look quite right to me. He is leading the league in interceptions right now. That's crazy. Now, maybe Jared Goff passed him last night. I don't know, but yeah, that's
might have lapped him
in one game. Love is tied with Geno with 10 picks right now, and that's too many. I didn't expect that from the Packers. I thought they would take a little bit of a step back, but Jordan Love is concerning me a little bit. All right, let's switch over to the good side. Rob, who is your surprise of the NFC North?
For me, it's the Vikings. I had them missing the playoffs when we started, but I've got them sneaking in as a wild card now. It just seemed okay on paper. Didn't seem great, but the start they got off to, again, this is another team where I think the schedule gets a little tougher second half of the season. But yeah, they're a surprise to me.
Larry, what about you? You got a surprise in the NFC North?
Same. And Darnold in particular, right?
Yeah.
And I get he had a bad game, but I don't know anybody who thought that he was going to reinvent his standing, and he has. So excited to watch the rest of the year go with him, see how he does. But Minnesota's definitely a surprise.
Yeah, Mike, should we be concerned that Darnold has slipped in a little bit in the last few weeks? That he's kind of taken a step back. Our team's figuring him out. Is he just kind of struggling? What's going on? The last couple of weeks, he hasn't looked quite as red hot. Are the Vikings still going to be a playoff team?
Yeah, I don't know. Like you said, if the schedule gets a little bit tougher, we might see. I think O'Connell's got them playing really well right to this point. So, they are my surprise with being 7-2 at this point. Everybody was kind of going in thinking that it was going to be a development year for the rookie. And Darnold comes in and reinvents himself. But like you said, maybe a couple struggles in the last couple of weeks. It's going to be interesting the next few weeks to see what happens with these top three teams in a division, all separated by 2 games. So
if they can run the ball, I think they'll take a lot of pressure off him. If they struggle to run the ball, then I think we're gonna see if Darnold is really the guy or not. Mike, who do you have getting into the playoffs out of the NFC North?
I've got 3. I've got Detroit running away, number 1 seed in the conference. Vikings and Packers, 2 wild cards.
Okay. Larry, what about you?
Same.
Rob?
Same.
Same here. I've got Lions getting in. I've got the Packers actually passing the Vikings, but the Vikings still squeaking in at the end. All right, let's move over to one of the more confusing divisions in the NFL, and that is the AFC South, where the Houston Texans are now on top with a 6-4 record, followed by the Indianapolis Colts at 4-6. Then you have the Tennessee Titans at 2-7, and the Jacksonville Jaguars dead last at 2-8. This division has not been pretty. Rob, who is your disappointment in the AFC South? And again, we only have about an hour to play with here.
It's going to be the Jags for me. I had them missing the playoffs, before our earlier podcast, but I didn't think they would be this bad. I mean, they just look terrible from the beginning of the season to now. They don't look like they're improving at all. Season's obviously lost at this point. Like I said, I had them missing the playoffs, but I didn't think they would be this bad.
I didn't either. I thought they'd at least be a little bit scrappy. Maybe we'd see some growth out of Trevor Lawrence. He hasn't been great. He doesn't get much help. I will say that. Sometimes I look at him and go, man, even when he does throw a good ball, they don't catch it. They're one of the top teams in drops, but man, they're just so bad. Mike, do you have a disappointment in the AFC South, or do you have just one?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us kind of thought this was the dog butt division in football in the AFC at least, with pretty much only one team getting in. So, but yeah, it is the Jags. I kind of expected a little growth over last year, with last year being such a disappointment, the way they fell apart, and it just hasn't happened. The interesting thing about this division is every team, even the leading Texans, have a negative point differential. So it's a very weird division.
It is a weird division. Larry, you got anything different for us? AFC South?
Not really. I actually had Jacksonville sneaking in as a wild card.
Yeah.
Earlier. We'll obviously change that. I am a little disappointed in Houston. I thought, and maybe, I thought they would pick up, where they left off, right?
Yeah.
And they haven't. And that's okay. They're still leading the division. They're younger coach, right? So all those things matter. So not a huge disappointment at all. It's got to be Jacksonville for sure for me.
Yeah, I'm going to throw out the Colts there. And I thought the Colts could be maybe on the edge of being a playoff team. They had to bench Anthony Richardson because not only, did he tap out on a run play that he got winded or whatever, but it sounds like he doesn't really prep. It sounds like he's not working very hard in the facility. And they bring in Joe Flacco. Well, it's great. And you think back to last year and the run he made and the amazing, play that he had. It's still Joe Flacco. He's not great. He holds the ball way too long. He forces passes. He hasn't looked great either. The Colts just seem to underachieve every single year. We're like, well, maybe, they've got some pieces. They don't ever do anything. So I'm going to throw the Colts in there as a little bit of disappointment. And having said that, if they figure anything out this year, they could still make a push for the playoffs. But yeah, it's bad. Here's the question. I will throw this out to Larry. Larry, do you have a pleasant surprise in this division?
No.
I don't blame you.
No.
Mike, what about you? Pleasant surprise?
No, there's no nothing.
All right, Rob, you're up. The heat is on.
No, I got nothing either. No surprise.
You know what? I'm going to nominate a team. I'm going to nominate the Tennessee Titans as my surprise because they're just 2-7. Fellas, I got to be honest. I thought they'd be worse. All right, Mike, who do you have making? Have you seen Will Levis play? Holy cow. How did they win a game? Mike, who do you have making the playoffs from this dreadful division?
Texans, and that's
Texans.
it. That's an easy one.
Yeah, I'm just going Texans too. Rob, same?
Same. Yep. Texans win the division, but that's it.
Larry, no sneaky wildcard teams?
Because somebody has to win the division. It's the Denver Texans, right?
You're exactly right. All right, let's go next to the NFC South. Another division, I'll be honest, kind of has me confused. The Atlanta Falcons are on top with a 6-4 record, followed by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 4-6. The New Orleans Saints and the Carolina Panthers are both at 3-7. Larry, This might be tough, but who is your disappointment from the NFC South?
I, I don't know that I have one either here. Again, I think Atlanta looked like the better team on paper. They are on, according to the standings. Um, I don't think anybody had a lot of confidence in Tampa Bay, New Orleans, or Carolina, certainly.
Right.
So yeah, they're right. It almost feels like everything's right where it should be, right?
Kind of is. Rob, you got a disappointment in the NFC South?
Yeah, it's going to be the Saints for me.
Okay.
I just thought they would be better. There's talent there. They started off the season hot, two
Yeah.
big wins, and then it just completely fell apart. Took them probably 3 or 4 games too long to finally fire Allen. But yeah, with the talent there, I thought they would be a little bit more competitive than they were. But like I said, that losing streak they went on 5 or 6 games, I think it was. Yeah, that's going to be my biggest disappointment in this division.
Well, and they lose Derek Carr, and they were like, rocked by losing Derek Carr, which I get, but you lose him every year. That stretch when they lost him, they made a strong case that they were the worst team in the NFL when he was out. And I know they had a lot of guys out, but that looked like a high school team. They were horrible. Holy cow, that was really, really bad. Yeah, I could see the Saints being there. Mike, you got a disappointment in this division?
Yeah, I mean the Saints to a little bit, to a degree, right? I only had one team in the playoffs in this division. I think we all had Dennis Allen on the hot seat
Yeah.
at the beginning of the year, so it's not a surprise that they're doing bad. But with the way they started and how they subsequently did the next handful of games, that was pretty shocking. One to me, Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Didn't they at one point have a good defense? They're like one of the worst defenses in the entire league right now.
Yeah.
Baker
Well,
Mayfield's
and
still playing pretty well, but my God, Tampa's defense is awful.
defense is bad. And the injuries to those wide receivers, that was disappointing because
Yeah.
you kind of wanted to see him at full strength and see now they're throwing to guys I've never even heard of. So yeah, that was tough too. Well, and I will say this about Tampa. Their back half of the schedule is soft. If they figure anything out, they could make a run. I'm not saying they're going to, but they could because they don't play anyone in that back half of the schedule. It is really, really soft. Rob, can you find a pleasant surprise in the NFC South? You might have to dig deep here.
For me, it's the team we just talked about, the Bucks, and specifically Baker, was rolling. Like I said, I know we mentioned he lost his 2 receivers, which is obviously going to hurt them down the stretch. But the level that he started off the season with and was playing with, when the receivers were there, was surprising to me.
Yeah, because he's been so inconsistent his whole career. To see him go out and put a few games together, yeah, it was kind of surprising. I was waiting for another round of commercials, coming. Larry, do you have a pleasant surprise in this division?
No.
Mike, how about you? Do you got a pleasant surprise?
Yeah, I'm with Larry. There's no pleasant surprises there. It's just, I mean, just like what's up with the South, right? AFC and NFC South
I
are
don't
just
know.
terrible. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I'm going to give a minor surprise. I'm going to give it to Carolina Panthers quarterback Bryce Young. Got benched, looked horrible, has come back and actually not played great, but been okay. Got him a win on Sunday. Hey, I'll give the little fella, his flowers on that one. Nice job. He outplayed, Daniel Jones, but still he got a win, and I don't know if anybody saw him getting a win. Somebody has to go to the playoffs from here. I'm going with just the Falcons. Mike, just Falcons.
Yep.
Larry.
Yep.
Rob.
Yep.
We are 4 for 4. All right. We're going to finish off the AFC in the West, where the Kansas City Chiefs are now the lone undefeated team in the league at 9-0. The Los Angeles Chargers are behind them with a 6-3 record, followed by the Denver Broncos at 5-5 and the Las Vegas Raiders at 2-7. This division has a chance to send 3 teams to the playoffs. It won't be easy, though, because they're going to start beating each other up. Mike, who is your disappointment in the AFC West?
Well, I don't know if I have a disappointment, to be honest
Fair.
with you. I mean,
Yeah.
the Raiders, I think we all predicted them to finish dead last.
Yeah.
Maybe not quite as bad as they are.
They are
I
bad.
don't really have anything that's a disappointment here. I'm disappointed that the Chiefs are 9-0, but that's not what you mean.
Fair, fair. Larry, you got a disappointment in this division?
I'm with Mike. Like, no, I'm only disappointed that there haven't been, more shenanigans going on in Las Vegas, but no, I do not have a disappointment.
All right, Rob, you got a disappointment in the AFC East? I mean,
Uh,
AFC West.
Not really. If I had to pick one, it would be the Raiders. Like Mike said, we expected them to be bad, but they just look just disorganized, just no. And again, that's also what we expect.
Yeah,
But just a little bit worse than I thought.
trade Max. Let Crosby go somewhere else and win. My goodness, he's in for a rough. And I know, tight end Brock Bowers, everybody, hey, outside chance for kid, get out of there. Get out of there soon. It looks so bad. They don't have a quarterback. They had a chance to get a quarterback. They chose to get a tight end. Raiders. All right,
Yeah.
let's go over the other side.
He's
Rob,
he's got a future in hair plugs for men commercials though.
yes, he does. It's fading and it's fading fast. It's fading faster than Trey Young. Rob, you got a pleasant surprise in the AFC West?
For me, it's the Chargers.
Yeah.
I felt like they're a year ahead of schedule. I thought it'd take Harbaugh maybe a year or two to kind of get his people in, imprint his philosophy and everything. But it's already happening. Yeah. So for me, it's the Chargers.
I would agree with that. Larry, you got a pleasant surprise in the AFC West?
Chargers. The culture change feels like it's happening. Still lot to prove over the next half of the season, but yeah, Chargers look pretty good.
Mike, finish it off. What do you got in the AFC West for a surprise?
Yeah, not to be repetitive, but it is the Chargers. Rob nailed it. I think they're a year ahead of schedule. He came in and got rid of anybody that knew how to catch a ball, as far as I knew.
Yeah.
Draft picks they knocked out of the park. All looks like all world tackle. McConkey's great. They're tough. They're tough up the middle. They're running the ball. It's Harbaugh ball, and I think they're a year ahead of schedule. And I, yeah, it pains me to say it, but they're a pleasant surprise for me this year.
Yeah, there. I'm going to go full homer, and I'm going to say, along with the Chargers, I'm going to say the Broncos are a surprise. I don't think they're a playoff team talent-wise. I know they're not. But Sean Payton is coaching this group up, and Bo Nix is in the running to be the guy. Like, he legit, the Broncos might have found their guy. And looking at it from the draft, I've never said those words before. It's never happened in ever. So I'll give them some credit. You're starting to see Peyton open up the playbook a little bit more for Knicks. He saw on Sunday against the Chiefs, hey, third and 5 or 6 game on the line. Hey, Bo, go make a play. So they're a pleasant surprise. Are they a playoff team? Not talent-wise. They've got too many holes, but they're scrappy. And again, they're a team you would not want to face if your season is on the line, because they're going to be a pain. And the Chiefs found that out on Sunday because they had to scrape and fight to get a win. That hasn't been the case the last 8 years. So I'll give the Broncos a little bit of a surprise. Larry, who is going to the playoffs from the AFC West?
I have the three teams. I've got Kansas City winning, Chargers, and I got the Broncos sneaking in. And for the reasons you kind of just mentioned, don't know if they should, but if you look at the landscape in the AFC, that record, I think will sneak them in. Plus, I'll be punished for having to buy playoff tickets here shortly, and they'll make me pay. So
Yeah.
I know that's why they're going to get in.
Sure, just a karma thing for Larry. Mike, what do you have? Who's getting into the playoffs out of this division?
Yeah, I've got obviously the Chiefs winning the division. I've got the Chargers as the wild card and the Broncos one spot out. I think we touched on it earlier. I think the Bengals get it together and pass up the Broncos for the 7th seed.
All right. Rob, you're the only objective one here. What do you got? Who's coming out of the AFC West?
I got it the same as Mike. Chiefs division and Chargers in as a wild card.
Yeah, I've got the same thing. I've got the Broncos just a game out, and the Bengals just passing them, because I think that last half of the schedule for Denver is going to be very, very tough. Not that they can't make it, but they're going to have to really play well to do it. Let's finish off with the NFC West, which again is another one of those really confusing divisions, at least to me. It seems to change from week to week. Now, some of it is injuries. Some of it is just these are some weird teams. Currently, the Arizona Cardinals are on top of the division with a 6-4 record. The San Francisco 49ers are now 5-4. The Los Angeles Rams are 4-5. And the Seattle Seahawks are 4-5. This division is the tightest in the league. I mean, a game or two separates first from last. I mean, this could completely flip by season's end. Rob, who is your NFC West disappointment?
For me, I would say the Seahawks. And again, there's some of that's injuries. I thought the defense would be a little better. Geno has kind of been up and down. But put it all together for me, Seahawks just are a little worse than I thought they would be.
Yeah. The Seahawks have not been very good. And here's the bad news for Seahawks fans. They've played a soft schedule. This might be as good as it gets. Larry, who is your disappointment in the NFC West?
Christian McCaffrey.
Okay. That's fair.
Right.
He was supposed to play in week 1.
Yeah. And so San Francisco, right? Yeah. I mean, they're just so low. Everybody, I think thought that they were, going to put on a show, and they've, been beset by injuries, and they're taking care of business, sort of. They're hanging in there until people get healthy and they put everything together. But I certainly expected them to be, having won, at least 2 more games, be on top of the division, and be in solid, footing here going into the last half of the season.
Oh, that's fair. Mike, disappointment? Who do you have?
For me, it's the Rams. I just thought they'd be a little bit ahead of where they are. I don't know. Stafford getting old. The injuries again. This whole division, my God, with the injuries and the pass catchers. But yeah, I thought the Rams. Actually, I think I might even had win in the division originally. But they're my disappointment.
One thing that I think should be mentioned here, because we talk about San Francisco, and San Francisco is a disappointment. You kind of forget, and they don't get the credit they deserve, but teams like the Buffalo Bills back in the 90s, the fact that Marv Levy and Jim Kelly and that group, they were going back year after, it's not easy just to stay healthy, just to stay on top of your game. And the Niners are kind of proving that, not that they can't get back to the playoffs. I think they probably end up getting, hot down the stretch and maybe playing their way back. It is really, really hard to win year after year after year, especially when you're losing the Super Bowl at the end. I know we kind of pencil them in. It doesn't always go that way. Sometimes you have injuries. Sometimes you have, I don't know, your wide receiver get shot in the chest. Sometimes you have your starting running back just not play. And we didn't even know he was going to miss week 1. He hasn't played yet. It's November. So sometimes these things happen. And I think we kind of forget at times how hard it is to win year after year after year. Some of those teams that didn't win at all, they don't get probably the credit they deserve. That's pretty hard to do. Let's switch over. Larry, who would be your surprise of the NFC West?
Arizona for sure.
Yeah.
And it always comes with a caveat, right? Because Arizona has a tendency to suck us in, and we think that, it might be working only to prove us wrong. So I do think eventually they'll prove us wrong, but for now they looks like they've got the ball rolling. They're a nice surprise. Yeah.
Rob, how about you? Who's your surprise?
Same for me. Cardinals. Thought the offense was going to be good, but the defense a lot better than I thought. Which I think is part of the reason why they have the record they do now. So Cardinals for me.
Yeah, Mike, finish it off. You got the Cardinals as well.
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's hard to differentiate these teams right now with everything being so close. So I think at the beginning of the year, I said the Cardinals were going to be a better team. I had them just outside of the playoffs.
Yeah,
God, they may win the division. I don't know. It's so jumbled up right now.
Here is a crazy thing to think about. Currently, based on records, not based on last year, but based on current records, the Arizona Cardinals have played the toughest schedule in the NFL so far. That is crazy to me. They have beaten some good teams. We'll see if they can keep it together. We'll see if, little Kyler can stay healthy and those kind of things. But man, Arizona, they're not fake. We're watching these games. Rob and I are texting back and forth, and we're like, are they good? Like, they might be good. I'm not sure. I don't know. Arizona might actually be a little bit better than we thought. All right, Mike, who is getting into the playoffs out of this division?
Complete reversal from my preseason pick. I got one team in, and I'm going with Arizona.
Just one getting in. Arizona makes it. Rob, who do you have?
Just one, but it's the 49ers.
Okay. Niners played their way back in, and Larry finished this off.
Same as Rob. San Fran.
You got just San Fran getting in. I'm going to put the Cardinals in as the division winner, and I'm going to have the Niners in as a wild card. Okay. So before we get to our whole playoff scenario, we'll get to that eventually. Let's go around the horn here. And I know it's early. I know we're only halfway through the season. We haven't even hit, Thanksgiving yet. But if you had to name your most valuable player for the season, who is getting your vote? We'll start with you, Mike. Who's your MVP right now?
Not to sound like a broken record, but I think it's Lamar right now.
Yeah.
What he's doing with that offense. I mean, it's almost like in the back of his head, he's still hearing the people saying, "Hey, he throws the ball okay for a running back," or whatever the saying used to be. So
yeah,
if they can game plan it right, and now that they got a legit running game with oh my God, the fountain of youth running back there,
right.
they're going to be a dangerous team. But I think Lamar is the leader in the clubhouse right now.
All right, Rob, who do you have? Who's your MVP?
Lamar would be my vote, but I don't think he'll get it. I think it's going to be Jared Goff. I think Lions end up with a better record, and they ended up giving to him. So Lamar would be my vote, but I think Goff is going to actually get it.
Well, Rob makes a strong point here because let's be real clear about something. Sports writers, and I say this as a sometime sports writer, are lazy. And they don't want to have to come up with a new angle why they're giving it to Lamar. So they just go, well, let's just pick it somebody else because I don't want to have to come up. I don't want dig. So let's just make it Goff. Yeah. So I could totally see that. That makes sense because sports writers are at the end of the day just completely lazy. Larry, who is your MVP?
I'm going to say Josh Allen.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it'll be between Lamar and Josh Allen, but I'm gonna go with Josh Allen.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good pick. I think it's funny because I have those three guys down right here on my list. Allen, Lamar and Jared Goff. And I think it's going to be one of those three. We will see who ends up getting it. But yeah, I don't think you could go wrong with any of them. Rookie of the year, are everybody going just Jaden Daniels, or is there anybody else that you would nominate in there?
Nope.
All Jaden Daniels. Yeah, I mean, I guess you can give a look at Bo. Bo has played well down the stretch recently, but we'll see how this all finishes up. Coach of the year. Larry, who would be your coach of the year right now at the midway point?
I'm going with Harbaugh, Chargers.
Yeah.
I think he's turned it around. I think he's setting the tone. Yeah, that'd be my vote.
I agree with that. Rob, who do you have? Who's your coach of the year?
Kevin O'Connell, Minnesota Vikings. I think they end up sneaking into the playoffs like we talked about. So yeah, that would be it for me.
All right. Mike, who do you have? Who's your coach of the year?
I think it's Dan Quinn in a slam dunk. What he's doing with the rookie quarterback is insane, and the way he's got that team playing. But again, like you said, the back half of the schedule, we'll see. But right now, I think it's Dan Quinn.
All right. I'm going to go Arizona Cardinals, Jonathan Gannon. And I know that we used to pick that other coach that used to be down there sometimes at the midway point. We'll see if he can finish a little bit stronger than that clown did. But right now, I'd say the Cardinals being on top is pretty surprising. So yeah, again, I don't think any of the guys we named, I don't think would be wrong going with any of those guys. They've all done a phenomenal job. All right, let's dig into it. Let's get serious. Right now, we've talked about the teams that we have getting into the playoffs. I'm just going to go around the horn and we're going to do this a little bit quick. Mike, who are your 7 teams getting into the AFC playoffs right now?
Let's see. I got the Bills, the Steelers, the Ravens, the Bengals, Texans, Chiefs, Chargers. Did I do too many? Hold on. Bills, Steelers, Ravens, Bengals. That's 4. Texans, Chiefs, Chargers. Yep.
That's 7. All right. Larry, who's your 7?
Chiefs, Ravens, Bills, Texans, Chargers, Steelers, Broncos.
Okay. And Rob, who are your 7?
Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, Texans, Wildcards, Chargers, Steelers, Bengals.
Rob, I have the exact same thing that you have. The only thing I have is the Bengals and Steelers switched. I think the Bengals actually passed them up, but I have Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, Texas, Chargers, Bengals, Steelers. So we're right there in that same area. NFC, Mike, who are your 7 NFC teams that are going to be playing in the postseason this year?
Eagles and Commanders out of the East. Got 3 teams out of the North, the Lions, Vikings, and Packers. And then just the division winners out of the next 2, Falcons and Cardinals.
Okay. Larry, what about you? Who's getting on the top 7?
I've got Detroit, Philly, San Francisco, Atlanta, and then Minnesota, Green Bay, and Washington.
Okay. Rob, top 7?
Yep. Lions, Eagles, 49ers, Falcons, Wildcards, Commanders, Vikings, and Packers.
All right. I've got Lions, Eagles, Falcons, Niners, Vikings, Cardinals, Packers. All right. We're going to do some quick fast forward here. We're going to plow through the wild card. We're going to plow through the divisional round. Mike, give me your championship games in the AFC. Who is going to the AFC championship this year?
Ooh, boy. AFC, I'm struggling with the AFC. I think I'd be foolish not to take the Chiefs playing against somebody. Chiefs, Ravens.
Chiefs, Ravens. All right. Larry, who do you have? AFC, who
Chiefs,
do you got?
Ravens.
Chiefs, Ravens.
Chiefs, Ravens. Yep.
Rob, you going 3 for 3 here?
I am not. Chiefs
Oh.
actually lose to the Bengals, so give me
Oh.
Bengals, Ravens.
Bengals, Ravens. That's a little bit spicy. I'm going to go Chiefs, Bills in the AFC. Let's move over to the NFC. Mike, who is your NFC championship teams?
I've got the Eagles and the Lions.
Eagles and Lions. Okay. Larry,
Eagles, Lions.
Rob,
Eagles, Lions.
I have the Eagles and Lions as well. Okay, now we're gonna go around and we're gonna you got to say 2 things. First up, who did you pick originally to be in the Super Bowl? And then make your Super Bowl pick. Mike, who did you pick originally to go to Super Bowl 59, and who will be your pick now?
I had Detroit beating Detroit beating Cincinnati in the Super Bowl.
Okay.
I will change that to Detroit beating Baltimore.
Okay, I like that one. Larry, what about you? What did you have?
I feel like I should have called Mike earlier and we could have discussed
You
this
could
a
have
little bit, but I had the
sorted this
same
out.
thing. I had Cincy and Detroit and
Okay.
and I'm revising it to Detroit and Baltimore.
Who's coming out on top in that game?
Detroit.
Detroit's going to win the Super Bowl.
Yep.
All right, Rob, who do you have? Who did you
Um,
have and who do you have?
I had Texans versus Detroit, with the Texans beating Detroit.
Okay.
Now I've got Ravens versus Detroit and Detroit losing again. Ravens for the Super Bowl.
All right. I will finish this off. I had Chiefs beating Lions in the Super Bowl. I will stick with Chiefs beating Lions in the Super Bowl until I am proven wrong. And the Chiefs are going to go undefeated. And Patrick Mahomes will not have any sort of injury. And CU will win the national championship.
Thank you for putting the jinx all over everything.
Cue the X-Files music right now. I'll dub that in later. Gentlemen, the NFL season, again, it is crazy. We have some teams that, we look back and some of them we look at and we say, hey, that's exactly what we expected. Then we have some teams that we go, what in the world is going on? There are teams, even though, we saw the Ravens come out and just slap the Bills. we've seen the Bills look great. We've seen the Ravens look terrible. The NFL parity is just king, and every week you got to pay attention because you just don't know. It's a wild season every single year. Got to say thank you to every one of you for coming in, talking some NFL. We always appreciate you guys stopping by, catching up. But right now, let's get your final thoughts. Mike, you got any final thoughts on the NFL? Whatever, college football, NBA, NHL. What do you got? What are your final thoughts for us here on this midseason report in the NFL?
Not much different. It's a great time of year, right? I mean,
Yeah, it is.
the baseball's over. That's great for us non-baseball. Hockey's just getting started. NBA's just getting warm. NFL's and college football are ramping up towards the playoffs. So looking forward to the college football playoffs this year. That's going to be incredible. So much more exciting. You would hope that not as many prospective NFL draft picks opt out of their final games now that they're
That's fair.
important, right? So hopefully that comes to fruition. But just always looking forward to the next few months.
Agreed. Couldn't agree more. Rob, what do you got for us? What are your final thoughts here at the midseason point?
Just another thing I mentioned last week about the playoff seeding, and how important that is. And I think the same holds true for the NFL, especially in the AFC, where you have that thing where Burrow can't beat Lamar, but then Mahomes always loses to Burrow. So just that the playoff seeding, I think, is really going to be a big deal down the stretch, and looking forward to it.
You bring up a good point. Hey, matchups matter. Hey, we could have beat the top team. We just couldn't get to them because of the matchup. No, you bring up a really good point. Matchups do matter. We'll see it in college football for sure. Last week, Rob and I broke that down, and it was bizarre because, of course, we didn't plan it. And Rob and I ended up picking the exact same national championship from two teams that were kind of surprises to get there, but it was matchups. And the matchups that they got just kind of eked them through. So yeah, that's going to be fun to watch in both. Larry, finish this off. What do you have? What are your final thoughts here at the midway point of the NFL season? What do you got? We're ready for anything. What do you have for us?
Anything? Well,
You name it.
It'd be great to see how the flex schedule works out at the end of the year, right? That's always fun. You got to stay on your toes. It's going to be a fantastic, second half of the season. A lot of tight divisions, a lot of meaningful games being played, division games. So it's going to be awesome. Jokic for MVP, right?
Agreed. Again.
That's a no-brainer. So
yeah, but you brought up those lazy writers. I don't know.
No, you're right. They are lazy, and they'll try to talk themselves out of it. When he goes out and puts up video game numbers every night, though, I don't know how you don't give it to him. The guy is an absolute freak. Here's one thing. Yeah, here's one thing I want to ask you guys about, because I don't know how they do it. We talk about Vegas always seems to know. Vegas always seems to know. They get it right every time. The NFL knows some things too. How do they know every year how to pick the worst games for Thanksgiving? It's a gift, honestly. This year we get Bears, Lions, horrible. Giants, Cowboys, horrible. Dolphins, Packers, horrible. Hey, we're going to spend time with family this year, kids, because we're not going to want to watch any of those games. They're all terrible. How do they do it?
I got 2 words for you. Captive audience.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I mean,
you're right.
They know people are going to watch no matter what. So they don't have to put a good game on, So they put on what they put on.
We finally get the Lions being good. And we get a horrible game still. It's just absolutely painful. All right. Well, fellas, as usual, I have to say thank you guys for stopping by. Always enjoy your visits. Always appreciate all that you contribute. And hey, let's hope for a great second half of the season. But thank you guys each very much.
Go Pios.